This is what happens when you're early, Mike.
I'll never do that again.
This is what happens when you're early. No, that's fine. You know, and something told me this morning, I was like, you know what? I bet you Mike will be here by 9 o'clock. I actually came up here about 8:30. I had to check some emails and stuff. And I wanted to try to get everything ready for you. As you can see, it took a minute or two to get this ready. And we're right on time, 9:30.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the start of Season 2, the best podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. In this week's episode, building a horseshoe to support a horse with collateral ligament damage, also preparing the back of a hoof, and using leg weights for conditioning. And we also have a couple questions from our listeners. And over to my far right-hand side to answer these questions is Mike Stine.
Hello, Travis.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Make sure you follow us on our Facebook feed and YouTube feed for every podcast we do. We have a matching video as well, and you can see us here in the studio. I'm waving to Mike. Mike's waving to me. And you have any questions, and we will answer them on the air. The way you do that is go over to equinedynamics.com, little contact section at the very top. Put in podcast in the subject line, and we'll answer your question on the air and get you some free swag, some stickers and stuff. So make sure you put in a return address as well. Welcome to Season 2, episode 1 of Season 2. We've been off for the last, 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, Mike?
I think it ended up about 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Unfortunately, we had some... On my side, we just had some stuff that I had to take care of here on the French. Mike was busy doing some other stuff, so we gave you guys a little bit of break, and now we're ready to head full steam into Season 2. Season 2 is going to have a lot more new stuff. We're going to have a whole bunch of people here in the audience. We're going to have call-in interviews, and we are also going to be out at the Ag Center here in our local town, Union County, North Carolina. It was where we broadcast from. We're going to be at a live event, Ag Center. Mike, do you have more details on that?
Well, that's I will be doing a little bit of a talk. There will be several speakers there. The J&L Elite Buckeye Feeds is putting this on, and they've asked us to be there.
So if you
we'll see.
Yeah, well, so if you'd like to join us, just email Mike, and we'll get you all the directions and stuff on where that is as well. Now, just a recap from Season 1 to Season 2. Mike, you've been busy. What have you been doing in the meantime in between the two?
Well, I was at the Carolina International 3-day event. Visited, had clients there. Been trying to keep up with fuel prices. I spent about $1,100 on fuel about a month ago.
Jeez, and you've got diesel, right? You got a big
diesel, yes.
And so, how much is that a gallon now? 5 something, 6 something?
It's been bumping over $5 a gallon some places. It's starting to back off a little bit, but boy, that bites into your profits when your fuel more than doubles.
Now, all the restaurants and stuff have been, having to upcharge on their stuff. Have you had to change your pricing or anything? I know you're a pretty fair guy as far as,
right. I'm asking people to chip in a bit, and I'm also rearranging schedules, so I'm kind of compressing some things together to cut down on mileage and being on the road so much. And where I am is always changing.
Yeah. Are you compressing it down to like a longer day to get like 20 people in, as to 2 short days where you get 10 on this day and 10 on this day? You're doing less.
Some of the days have become longer days. Some of the things we've had to look at and decide whether or not we need to be doing this anymore. There's areas where the clientele has backed off a lot, and depending on what I was doing, some of that will be changing.
Well, as you guys know, when we left off, my wife was getting ready to buy a brand new horse. I went down to Florida for a couple of weeks to help my dad out with some things he was going on down there, and came back up, and lo and behold, Mike, we have a brand new horse. Is it a gelding where it's a boy that's been fixed, right? Is that what the proper term is?
I hope so, yeah. Yeah.
So we have a brand new 3-year-old dressage horse by the name of Diego. Have you met Diego yet?
I have met Diego.
And what was your experience? And did you do the whole, as he was walking and all that stuff, your total visual
Well, I took a quick look at him as he came in the barn, and by God, she wanted something uphill. He is uphill.
Yeah? What does that mean?
His withers are set higher than his rump.
Is that good or bad?
Depends on what you're looking for. It's always a depends. Now, for dressage, you want them up in the front end.
Okay.
And, he's up in the front end. And, as he matures out, we'll see how he grows because, at his age, he's still going to get a little taller. He's still going to get a little bigger. And basic horse, he's there. And then got to take a look and start thinking, how are we going to handle him? Because the one thing that I'm looking at with him is since he is as uphill as he is how am I going to support that back end? Because he's going to create some down pressure back there.
My wife, I asked her this morning because we were out feeding the horses. I said, well, how big is Diego? And she said he's 16'1". And at 3 years old, that's really, really, I guess, big for a 3-year-old.
Well, if you really want to know what size he is and what he weighs, you can put your foot up under him and let him stand on it.
No, thank you.
That's how you weigh a horse, right?
But she said he's going to grow another 2 inches. So
good chance of that, yes.
So that's what we're looking at as far as we have a brand new horse on the property. So now we have a total of 4 horses. And then, of course, we work with fostering a couple horses
You're
here.
starting to get enough horses here, you can start making money with them.
Well, I'm hoping. That's the whole plan, right? That's the whole plan, to take your retirement fund from going into the horses to hopefully making some retirement money out of the horses.
Yeah, let me know how that works for you.
I know there's a formula there that doesn't quite work. And in my mind it works, but sometimes it just doesn't work for whatever reason. All right, guys, stick around. We got
how you make a small fortune with horses anyway, don't you?
What's that?
Got to start with a big one.
Yep. Well, we do definitely have a big one. All right, guys, stick around. We got a lot more to get into. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. This is our first good segment. Start right off the bat. Mm-hmm. We never missed a beat, Mike.
Just like I've had enough coffee this morning.
That's good. Was that
5 or 6 cups? That'll get me going.
Was that little bit that I gave you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I smelled French vanilla. Was there French vanilla in there, Mike?
There was some French vanilla. It just depends on what's around, what ends up in there.
No, I can't stand French vanilla, and I can't stand this chair. I got to dunk this thing in 3-in-1 oil. All right, here we go. Coming back.
Yep.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the official farrier of the 2018 World Equestrian Games. And make sure you follow him on his Facebook page. The way you find him is go to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And Mike, you've been posting a lot of videos up on your Facebook page. I've been watching them, some past videos that you've done before, and some current ones I saw that you had up there as well.
Trying to get a few up. I've not done a lot with videos before. I've had a Facebook page, what do you call it? The video page for a good while. I hadn't put a lot on there. And trying to get a few things up there that we've talked about on the show so people can go there and see what's going on, what we're talking about, what we're working with.
Yeah, put the two together. You hear this on the podcast, go over to his Facebook page, make sure you like him, and also subscribe to his YouTube page because we post a video like this video that we have here in the studio. Season 2, we're going to have a whole bunch of people here in the audience or in the studio as well, and you'll be able to talk to them. We'll have some saddle fitters, we'll have some trainers, so it'll be a visual aspect of the podcast that'll bring us closer to you guys as well. Now, we're going to get into building a shoe to support a horse with collateral ligament damage. Now, first of all, let's talk about what is collateral ligament damage first.
Well, on the collateral ligaments help support and stabilize the joint. The reason I brought this up is one of them got sent to the house by one of the vets that I work with down in South Carolina because of location. They trucked the horse to me. And on this one, it was the lateral side, meaning the outside. And you manage that a little bit different from inside the outside because I can put some metal outside the foot on the outside of the foot, where on the inside, if I put a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch of metal set into the inside, well, they just step it off. And
can you put boot bells on them to help them to keep it from stepping off, or no?
You probably can, but if you get that much out there, they're going to grab hold of it.
Okay.
And so anyway, what we were doing was on the inside branch of the shoe, we tapered it way down, narrowed it, because on soft surfaces, it would sink into the ground. As that sinks into the ground, the coffin bone tilts down to the outside, and it shortens, slacks off of that ligament that's to the outside. And if it was a medial side ligament, you do this in reverse. When the other thing is broadening out that outside of the branch of the shoe, and I welded in some metal on it so that I could make it wider. So the outside branch of the shoe that contacted the ground, I made it about half again wider than what it was originally, but between forging and laying a piece of rod down the inside to broaden that out, because on soft ground, I want some flotation. I want that side to sit on top. When a horse turns to, say he's turning away, it was I think, if I remember right, it was a left-hand side hoof. When he turns to the right, I want that foot to roll easily to the right, because if he's got a lot of breakover to the medial side, as the foot moves and the bone column starts going that way before the foot starts going that way, it stretches against that collateral ligament. When he's going the other way, I want it to stay on top, because when he goes the other way, it shortens the collateral ligament. And what we're trying to do is take mechanical stress. That breakfast was good.
That's okay.
And off of that ligament, because we want to give it a chance to heal up. They're also going to do some shockwave and a few other things on it to help stimulate circulation there.
Well, we actually had the vet come over for Dominique, our mare, and do the shockwave on her spine. I guess she's got a little bit of kissing spine somewhere. I'm not sure. I could be totally wrong on that, but she came over the other day and did some stuff on her back.
Yeah, I do believe that they did come up with we're dealing with a little bit of kissing spine problems with her, and that's one of those deals that's probably a little more prevalent out there than people know. We've started looking at that a lot more than we used to. So guess what? We're finding a lot more. There's plenty of horses out there that probably have it that are not hurting.
Now, the collateral ligament damage, is it what causes it? And is it?
Just say you just sprained your ankle.
Okay. That's an easy. So it's nothing hereditary. Like, this horse is always going to have this problem. This is just something that it's come up from walking in the fields or walking. Now we have a nice rainy day today. It's very uncommon or not uncommon for a horse.
Could be a slip, could be a slide, could be a help. A buddy was helping the horse out in the field.
Right. And so this is what it's a fix to bring it back around to full service.
Right. And from what we understand, this probably got created during turnout. And, we can do certain things for horses, and we can be careful about what we're doing when we have them in hand, we're working them, whatever. But when they're out in the field with their buddies, sometimes they have to do stuff to each other. They just do. They just do. And sometimes we get some injuries because of assorted roughhousing or whatever when they're out in the field.
I know when I was down in Florida, at the time we just had the 2 ponies here, and my wife brought this new horse, Diego, to the property, and they got along fine, all 3 of them. The ponies are 2 females, and Diego's a male, of course, and they got along fine, but the other horse, Dominique, remember I said she was at the other barn being boarded?
Right.
She came home a week later, and she's the alpha female. And she ran those horses all through all 3 pastures, back and forth.
She was making sure everybody knew who she was.
Well, I mean, imagine being gone from your house for a couple weeks and come back, and there's
someone's moved in.
You got a new roommate. All right, guys, stick around. We got a lot more to get into and answer your questions as well. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I probably knew at the moment.
The office knows. So.
The office knows. The staff of 50 people.
Right. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the 2017 American Eventing Championship farrier and also a good man all around. People have asked him some weird requests. We're not going to get into that, but I mean, he's very knowledgeable as far as what's going on in the equine world. And if you like to follow him, go over to Facebook as well, and that's Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Just type that in, you'll find him. You got a nice little mugshot up there.
Probably so.
He's been posting a whole bunch of videos, and make sure you follow him on YouTube as well, because every podcast we do, we have a matching video, me waving at Mike waving at me, and like I said, we're going to have more people here. Now, we'd like to get your questions on the air as well, and the way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contacts. fill out the little form there. In the subject line, please put podcast so Mike can decipher between all the other emails that he gets, and he will answer your question like we have a couple that we'll get to here in just a few minutes. Now, we're going to dive into preparing the back of the hoof. Now, when you say the back of the hoof, are you talking the whole back of the hoof or the back side of a hoof?
Well, what I'm talking about is the bearing surface, the what goes against the ground and to the back of the hoof.
So all four hooves, but
all 4 feet. All 4 feet,
but
not
just
the back feet.
Okay,
all 4 feet.
That's what I had to decipher. All right, so how do you prepare for the back of the hoof?
Well, that's one place that to me, and the time I've worked in vet clinics and all this, where sometimes we're a little lacking. If you don't get the back of the foot prepared to where it should be, it creates a lot of force driving the foot forward, and the heels cramming forward can cause quarter cracks, can cause flaring, and a number of problems. So it's a lot easier for somebody to be a little better on the front of the foot than the back half. And they talk about getting the heels back to the broadest part of the frog. If you do not go in there and clean up your frog and find where the frog terminates into the foot itself, that's still a distortion you're working with, because as the frog goes up, it also shifts forward. So you need to get in there and clean that out. You need to clean out your bars. Need to find out where the bars terminate, and because that's going to be one of the guidelines to help you figure out where basically the center of that foot mechanically should be. Meaning, your basically the center of rotation. And if you're not doing that, you're kind of working a little blind. You're not landing on your landmarks. You're not balancing the wheel on your car.
So you have a little bit of a wobble to it.
A little bit of a wobble, yes. And you got to get the hoof itself under the bone column. If the foot is driving forward out from under the bone column, even just standing there, the amount of stress on tendons and ligaments that causes. So, that needs to be taken care of and addressed properly, and we need to pay attention to detail. There are going to be some variations with every horse you touch. None of them are going to be exactly the same on anything. We'd love for feet to match. They don't. And you got to look at the horse back half of the foot. You got to look at each side of the hoof. Is that where we should be or not? And then pay attention to your bone column, because that's going to make some differences in what goes on to the foot. 'Cause we're not always dealing with a dead straight bone column, and we're not always dealing with the foot loading evenly from side to side. And what we need to do is kind of center up the pressure in the foot.
Now, with my new horse, Diego, does he have shoes on or not?
We're not planning on having shoes for a while.
Okay.
He needs to grow up some. And right now, he's getting the work that your trainer is putting in. And, Brett's dealt with young horses plenty of times. And ideally, at this age, if we need to start putting shoes on him, we might be pushing him too fast. We might need to think about backing off some.
Now you were talking about earlier, like when a baby comes out, you're already looking at the hooves and the way they're forming. And I believe you did say something about putting shoes on a baby horse, or was I
I have done some builds on baby horses to work with leg straightening. But, on a horse his age, he's still maturing. Unless there's a real reason to do it, we need to let his feet mature out and let them expand a little, and as he gets bigger. If there is a problem we need to deal with, we deal with the problem.
So right now he's good to go.
Right now he's good to go, and we maintain regular maintenance, because we don't want anything getting out of control, but we should be able to keep him going just fine with just regular hoof maintenance. And then we'll see where he is as he gets a little more mature, and the workload picks up.
Awesome. All right, guys, stick around. We got a couple more little segments to get into, and then we'll let you go back to enjoying your day. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. You good?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good.
You had to say it twice to verify.
Just to make sure I knew what I was talking about.
I'm good. I'm good, right? Yes, I'm good.
I think I'm good.
It's all open.
I've not been told the truth yet.
It's all open to interpretations.
Yes.
Have you, speaking of interpretation, have you had any feedback from the show since it's been in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah. I got a text message from someone to my phone number that I've got to show you about one of the comments on one of the earlier shows.
Okay. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the best podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. Make sure you follow us on our Facebook page, and the way you do that is to go over to Equine Dynamics and search for Mike Stine as well, and then you can see the Facebook page. He's been posting videos. He'll take your questions right there on the Facebook page as well, and we'll answer them here on the very next podcast. Also, if you want to get your questions in straight to him, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page, hit contacts, and in your subject line, please put podcast so Mike can decipher between all the other emails that he gets. And don't forget, in May, what's the date in May that we're going to be at the Ag Center here in Union County?
I do believe it is the 28th.
So the 28th, if you live in the North Carolina area and you'd like to come out and see us, Mike's going to be speaking out there along with 8 other speakers and answering questions from the audience as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure exact numbers, but I know there's several speakers.
Well,
will be there.
Make sure that you like them on the Facebook page, and we'll post all the information up there as well. And we'll have some free stuff for you if you come out and say, "Hey, I heard you on the air. We love you guys." All right, now we're going to get into using leg weights for conditioning for you or for the horse.
I'm not going to use leg weights.
All I can think of is those Suzanne Summer videos and leg weights that kind of wrap around their Velcro, and they got like sandbags, and people in the 80s were walking around with leotards and stuff. Is it kind of the same way?
Kind of the same thing.
Without the leotards,
Without the leotards.
on a horse.
You can put leotards on a horse if you like to. That's, everybody's into what they're into.
That's a different circus. So tell me about the leg weights that are going on horses.
Well, there are a number of boots with a little bit of weight added to them. When I was working for a vet that I worked for who, there was always horses that are a little uneven, a little weak on one side. They need a little help. And he would use some leg weights to help build a weak leg. Now, if you're using leg weights, just at a slow pace, you're not going to go out and gallop them with anything like that. Also with leg weights, some of them you can get some rub problems. Now, what this veterinarian did was old socks. And you put a fistful of sand in there and wrap the leg with it. But, you've got horses that sometimes you need to get them to engage muscle where they haven't been using it. And that's one of those things you got to be really careful with, because at speed, you can create damage with weight.
Now, what's the difference between putting the leg weights on, like you were talking about, like the sock and sand, and the shoe that you were talking about where you actually put like the lead fillers, the little pellet things on it to fix a paddle foot or
Well, that was an old Jack Miller thing, and it was in the aluminum shoes that seemed to work out. And the weight you can put on for a little while, take them off. He's out in the paddock by himself. You can let him ease around with it, and use them as needed. Take it on and off, and you can adjust it. Now, have you grabbed a broom handle by the very end and lifted the broom?
Yeah, like this way, lift it, or just straight up lift it?
Just like lifting the end off the ground this way.
Yes, it's very hard because of the pitch and lever system.
Right. And you got to think about that when you're doing this with a horse, because the length of that leg, if you take that leg and you extend it out, that's a long lever arm up to the hip or up to the shoulder. So it takes very, very little weight to make a difference.
So here's a question that I have, Mike, only because I don't know. Do they actually have treadmills wide enough for horses to walk on them as you put these weights on them? Because I'm thinking, if I've got a horse that's got leg weights and it's going to be out in the pasture, I see more damage than good.
See, that's one of the things is you've got to be careful with it. There's been a lot of different deals used, just something to create a little more action. I tell you, one of my clients, and this actually worked out pretty good. She had a horse that was always a little weak on one side in the back end, and she used a cat collar with a bell on it.
And that was it.
And, working the horse with that, it was very little weight, but that created more action in the leg. And that horse now is stronger on that weak side in the back end.
Now, the horse didn't like freak out because every time it moved, the bell went off, or?
Well, they're all going to handle these things a little different. But, sometimes to build, but like I say, work with your vet. If you've got a horse that's weak on one side, if you've got damage, you don't want to inflict damage to the damage. And it's like old Doc's deal was just a little fistful of sand out of your arena. You don't have to spend a lot of money. They've got kits and the deals you can buy. Of course, you could spend, if it's got a picture of a horse on it, you can spend as much money as you want to.
Automatically.
And, he would take that little string off a feed bag and tie it with that because that's a little itty bitty string. If they hang it on something, it'll pop. Just so it comes right off. And that you wrap it around, and that would conform to the leg nice, and usually didn't have much of a rub problem. I have seen some of these boots rub a horse, and you don't want anything rubbing the horse.
Because then you get into other problems.
But it is something to think about with your training program. Is my horse consistent from side to side? And most horses probably don't really need this. If you've got a damaged hock, damaged stifle, damaged joints, I'd think real hard about it, and you need to know what's going on, and you need to be working with good professionals that have gone down this kind of a road, because you can add a little bit of weight on some of these horses and you can hurt them. And you need to be very aware of what's going on in your horse if you use this at all. The reason this was brought up is Amy had sent a whole list of alternative therapies that could be talked about, and asked if I would talk to them, address some of these deals on the show.
Who's Amy?
Amy is Amy.
Okay.
You know Amy.
Yes.
She lives around, not your
I was
Amy,
gonna say,
another Amy.
Why is my wife sending you a list of stuff to talk about?
I don't know why your wife sent me a list. I don't think it was that Amy.
Okay, so.
But, there are a lot of things on the market, and, there are plenty of things that this is the new popular thing. This is the new treatment. This is the, we've seen treatments come up and treatments disappear, and this kind of light's popular, and then something else came in, and then we got the pulse and, the newest pulse therapy unit. And I saw pulse therapy units 30 years ago. They were around. It just wasn't that popular at the time. Then we tried something else, and that becomes popular. Now we're doing shockwave. Now we're doing, and everybody, this is what we got to do for everything. But some of these old remedies still work, and there are ways to get stuff done. And I've seen some weighted bell boots. In fact, I have been given some, and I'll tell you that I have used them a little bit on a rehab horse, and I also ended up with some rub problems. And so I backed off of using them. But there are also some splint boots that have inserts that you can put a little flat piece of lead in there. I have seen that. And but for the most part, before we get into these weights or stuff like that, we need to back up. We need to take a look at our riding. We need to take a look at our work program, and we definitely need to take a look. Is there something underlying going on with this horse? Why is he uneven? All of them are a little uneven, just as we are.
Tell me about
it. But, before you go doing this, be safe, be smart, make sure you cover your bases first, and don't do something to promote injury of the horse. Because if we're injuring the horse by doing something, probably wasn't the right thing to do. And our whole goal is to keep these horses going longer and stronger and performing better without injury.
All right, guys, stick around. We got one more segment to get into, and then we'll let you get back to and enjoying your day. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Did that work okay?
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. I figured out who Amy was. Amy's your office manager, right? Is that her? Okay.
Yeah, these were things that were sent to Amy through the website.
And you guys can get your questions to Mike Stine as well. Go to equinedynamics.com and click on the not the podcast, the contact section. Sorry, I get the two confused. And make sure you put podcast in the subject line, and we can discuss your topic here on the air as well. And we're going to get to a question from a listener. Mike, do you remember who this listener was? Because we're going to send them out some free stuff. I'm sure Amy at the office probably knows, right?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
So the question is, why are X-rays beneficial to a farrier?
They are very beneficial. One of the problems I have run into in a couple situations is we have X-rays, and this is going on. I've had this happen more than once. The veterinarians that I work with a lot, they will appear. They send them to me, and it's not a problem. If you have X-ray shot, if the vet is not sending them to your farrier that are hoof X-rays, make sure you get them and make sure the farrier sees them. Because if I've got a horse that's thin-soled, there are a few more things I need to look at, like hoof positioning around the joint. If the horse is shod, where is that based around the joint? Where is my breakover? Where is my support? How does that line up? Remember, we're talking about identifying the center of the foot.
Yes.
Well, that breaks down to a much finer area, closer, the tolerance. You know, some of these things from the external part of the foot are a little subjective, but it gets us in the ballpark pretty close. When you shoot X-rays, if you've got good X-rays. Now, you've gone out with your phone and you've shot X-rays of or pictures of assorted things.
Right.
And then you've seen the professional photographer's pictures.
Yes.
There can be that much between X-rays and X-rays. So you want good X-rays that we can tell exactly where things are. We can run. There's some programs we're going to run some measurements on the X-rays, and we can dial it into, millimeters. If I've got an X-ray that is not set up correctly,
on a flat surface,
right, the alignment of your beam is just right, dead on. Your distances are right. How close are you to your plate that is picking up on the other side? Because as you shoot the X-ray, that beam spreads. It's kind of like a blast out of a shotgun. Mm-hmm. Right in the center is your closest tolerance, say the size of a 50-cent piece. And if you got the plate right against the foot, you're going to have a certain amount of magnification because of that beam spread between the coffin bone itself and the plate. If I've got the plate set 2 inches off the foot, I've got more magnification. So I want that plate as close as possible when the X-rays are shot. And you can figure about 10% magnification, roughly, give or take. Maybe it's 8% on a little tiny foot. Maybe it's 12 on a great big foot. But you can figure 10% when you're looking at things. If I've got a plate that's set back 2 inches, well, that skews that. So how the X-rays are shot mean everything. It's, just as I said about I think I brought this up last series.
Last season, yeah.
About a horse that I had X-rays on, and the communication was, this horse has ring bone. Horse has 4 legs. You have low ring bone, high ring bone. Is it the front of the joint, side of the joint, back of the joint? It makes a difference.
And that person just said, no, it's got ring bone. That was it.
It has ring bone. We need this fixed.
Okay. Again.
And I said, well, high ring bone, low ring. It has ring bone.
Right.
Which leg is it in? It has ring bone. And this was to the owner, who is the vet that I need to contact? Well, I'm talking to the vet. Now, I no longer work for this person. But, yes, there were X-rays. I don't know what they mean. So if you can't get them in front of the farrier, it's kind of hard for the farrier to tell anything off X-rays. A situation like that,
yeah,
I just held steady as to where I was, and I probably said, okay, if I can't get the X-rays, I should not come back and do the horse, which would have probably been the smarter thing to do.
Probably.
But, you've got to be able to see them. And there are occasions where X-rays pop up, and it comes. You're playing the game of telephone. Mm-hmm. When this one told this one, told this one, told this one. I don't know what the interpretation is, and I'm not going to make any kind of guesses as to what it is, because I'm probably going to end up wrong.
Well, I picture it just like if you go into the doctor's office, you go, oh, doctor, I got a pain right here. And he's like, all right, let's just cut you wide open and kind of wheel around in there and find out what's wrong with you without taking x-rays.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's nothing wrong with you. And you end up dying on the table.
Like you said, you hurt your back in 3 places. Well, don't go back those places.
But well, and Mike, you didn't answer my question. Do they actually have treadmills for horses?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, don't let
They do have treadmills for horses.
Okay.
I've seen treadmills on horses.
All right.
And they elevate and they speed up and they slow down. And
it probably costs 50 times more because it has a horse picture on it somewhere because they are just for horses, right?
it's a little larger than the treadmill
that I run on.
That you run on.
Right.
And yes, they do. And I have seen them more than one place. I had a customer who had one in the back of their barn.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. All right, guys, what did we learn today? Building a horseshoe to support horse with collateral ligament damage.
Just support it correctly, work with your professionals, take care of the problem. The best thing is hopefully you never have the problem. It's not something we're going to see every day.
Preparing the back of a hoof, and that's the back of a hoof. All four.
A hoof, the hoof, whichever hoof you got in your hand at the moment.
Right, preparing the back.
Pay attention to details, get your landmarks where they need to be, and be as accurate as you can.
And using leg weights for conditioning on a treadmill. Or not on a treadmill. I just threw that in there.
If you got a treadmill, great. I don't. And be very careful. Check out your horse. Find out if there's anything underlying. And be very, very, very careful about overloading the horse if you go in that direction. But before you go that way, find out what's going on.
And also, x-rays are very important to a farrier. So if you have something wrong with your horse, make sure you're getting the proper x-rays taken and get those to your farrier, and he can kind of decipher them as far as what he needs to do next. Well, what Mike needs to do next.
Yes, good x-rays and bad x-rays, it's a world of difference. If you want to look up, and I'll refer to this guy a lot, Dr. R.F. Redden in Versailles, Kentucky. He's got a very good guideline on how x-rays should be done for farriers. Now, he is a podiatry-based veterinarian. He's been a podiatry-based veterinarian for 50 years.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's show. We're going to let you guys get back to enjoying the rest of your day. Make sure you follow Mike Stine on Facebook, and you can see all the latest videos he's got posted up there. And make sure you follow him because we're going to be live at the Union County here in North Carolina, and you'll get all the details in May. May 28th, did you say?
May 28th, I do believe.
All right. And make sure you like him on his YouTube channel, and that is Mike Stine, Equine Dynamics.
Look up J&L Elite and find the details.
Okay, J&L Elite as well. And make sure you have any questions. We'll answer them here on the air at equinedynamics.com podcast in the subject line. All right, guys, that's going to do it for you. On behalf of Mike Stine over there.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you, Travis. Glad you're back in town.
Thank you very much. My name is Travis Holmes. See you next time.
All of your work is done. Just close your eyes and dream, little pal.
Little cowboy.
Dream of
Close your eyes.
someone.
All of the doggies are in the corral.
Hi, Lucky.
All your work is done.
Good night, Ned.
Just close your eyes and dream, little pal. Dream on someone. You know what that is? That's the end of the podcast. That's the theme song for the.
Okay.
Never listened to the show.
No, I try not to. I can't stand hearing myself.